Okay, everyone, welcome back to an exciting new season here on the 1911 Syndicate. We look at each month as like a new season, if you will, and we have not been canceled yet, which is exciting, which all that really means is I'm still footing the bill for this damn thing until we actually make some money with it, which just know, hey, that is coming and we're gonna do affiliate stuff and Patreons and all that good stuff. I would say this, hey, for the new viewers who might see this video and this is your first time, or if this is your first sort of month-ish on this channel, I get it. These videos may be frustrating. We may bounce around and we may not be as to the point as some channels out there, but these reviews are a little bit of a podcast, if you will. You know, it's a little bit of a free-flowing dialogue, and we get to our points. We just may take a little bit longer to get there. But regardless, we do appreciate you watching and subscribing and all that good stuff. And if you are still new and don't know what the hell the 1911 Syndicate is, originally this whole thing is behind the scenes. It's all a real estate company, actually, which I know is super strange and odd, but we operate here in Utah and Arizona and Texas and different states. Basically, long story short, hey, look, if you're into shooting, military, law enforcement, stuff like that, and you need to buy, sell a house, any kind of stuff like that, just hit us up and we'll see what we can do for you. But let's get into the subject matter of today's video, which is going to be on the OSS HX QD 5.56 can. This is the standard length 5.56 can from OSS, which is a local company here. To give you guys a little disclaimer in terms of how I acquired the can and all that good stuff. Can was purchased by me. It was given to me at favorable pricing, which is the case for a lot of things these days is, hey, you know, we'd be happy for you to do a review. You know, we don't want to do a free thing, but, you know, maybe we'll give you a discount and you just pay for it. So that was the case on this. So I have no, you know, freebie allegiance or anything like that. I've met the OSS dudes, cool dudes from the people that I've met over there, but can was paid for by me. And just a quick disclaimer, because I know people always bring it up, we have put out a review on this gun, but it is my Type A 11.5 Pro SBR. I mean, the whole thing's pimped out with, you know, Unity and EOTech and lights and all kinds of cool stuff. If you want to learn more about that rifle, go back, I don't know, a month or so after this video comes out, and you can go learn all the fun stuff about this gun. But that said, let's get into it a little bit on the OSS can. Okay, everyone, here's my disclaimer going into this conversation. I'm a civilian, was never in the military, law enforcement, so I am not a end professional user of suppressors. I enjoy them. They're about as cool of an accessory as you could possibly put on a gun. These are most of the reasons why I enjoy shooting them, / now I have an excuse to do reviews on them, okay? But I'm bringing that up because I think if we're gonna talk about suppressors, you have to look at, well, what is the benefit of using a suppressor? Now, if you watch enough movies, which we all do, Hollywood is gonna tell you that it is just insanely quiet, right? Comically, to the point of, if you go watch Inception, great movie, Christopher Nolan movie, Leo DiCaprio, in the beginning of the movie, he's using a Beretta PX4 Storm, God rest his soul, and he is, as he's sniping people in the dream flashback, he puts his hand over the, you know, over the fucking, you know what I'm talking about, like the breech where the round comes out. Someone please correct me in the comments. You talk on camera enough, tell me how many things you sporadically forget. So he puts his hand right over it so that when the rounds come out, he catches it. As if the sound of the round being fired is more noisy than a shell hitting the ground. Pure comedy, right? Now, contrary to that, no, suppressors are actually quite loud. Loud enough to the point where you will notice in our hopefully good montage that we put out today, I'm wearing ear protection and the whole thing because, like I said, it's pretty fucking loud actually. It's just designed to take the edge off. So if you're looking at suppressors and going, well, what's the benefit if you still have to wear hearing protection? Well, the benefit is this. It's mostly for signature reduction. Now that would be a couple things. Let's say that I'm a good guy operating overseas with a gun. Signature reduction would be a couple things. Visual, right? Taking away that flash and that fireball that if you're shooting a gun that has a break on it, for example, especially in low light, no light conditions, a fireball is coming out of the end of that gun, giving away your position. This is going to help mitigate that significantly. But also auditory signature reduction, AKA it's just gonna be tougher to tell where that round is coming from. Those are probably the two biggest benefits. The other ones would be, look, if you're operating in a team environment and all the bad guys are shooting loud AK-47s at you and your team is all shooting suppressed M4s, obviously it's gonna be a lot easier to tell which rounds are coming from your team versus incoming enemy fire. The other benefit, and it would be a large one, is especially if you're running night vision, it's really gonna be a pretty critical piece of kit at that point, just to, again, under night vision, not have that fireball blowing up onto your nods. I would say beneath all of that would be noise reduction for the actual shooter, okay? So that's a little bit on why you would want to use a suppressor. Again, that information is getting relayed to me from end professional users. Now, beyond that, if you look at, okay, well, what is the HX-QD556 can? Look, it's a standard link suppressor, AKA it's not a K can, K as in Kurt, it's just these short suppressors. If you look at the specs and compare it to like a Dead Air Sandman S, which is a very go-to suppressor for me, they're gonna be almost identical, okay? So weight, the OSS is gonna come in at 17.6, and then the Dead Air is gonna come in at 17.7, so we're talking 1/10 of an ounce separating the two. We can, you know, pretty much call them the same weight at that point. Length, 6.44 for the OSS, and then 6.8 for the Dead Air Sandman S. So they're virtually identical. I'm gonna use these as a bit of a comparison point because to really look at OSS, you have to understand, well, why would you get this over a different suppressor? Keeping in mind that, hey, there's other bigger suppressor companies. I would put OSS probably in that top 5 category. But if you really look at, okay, what's different about an OSS can? Well, the main answer is this. It's flow-through technology. So instead of firing a round from a traditional suppressor, a Surefire or whatever it may be, and you're getting a bunch of gas that blows back in your face, which is very unpleasant, this passes all that through the front of the suppressor. So essentially what is coming back into your face is greatly, greatly reduced. It's not zero, but it's significantly reduced. And that's the main hallmark of the flow-through technology. You know, you will, not from this particular camera shot, but you will see at the end here, the way this is designed is all these little ports that go 360 around the end cap. That's where all of that gas is passing through. So the net result of that is you get a much more pleasant shooting experience. That's the basics of flow-through technology. Doesn't mean much to me. I'm one of those that, does it sound nice or is it loud? But in terms of what it's actually rated for per OSS website, hey, if you're firing from a 16-inch barrel, you're gonna be looking at mid 130s. If you're firing from a 10.5-inch barrel, which would be something like a Mark 18, you're gonna be looking at low 140 something decibel level. Okay, we'll come back to actual how does it sound. Their suppressors are compatible with OSS flash hiders and muzzle brakes, pretty standard stuff. I am not sure if there are any other companies that OSS cans are compatible with other muzzle devices. I'm not sure. By comparison, if you look at something like Dead Air, there's companies like Sons of Liberty, and I know some others that I'm blanking off the top of my head, but there are other companies that make muzzle devices that a Dead Air can will thread onto, okay? Is that the case for OSS? Maybe, I'm not aware of any, but as to the best of my knowledge, OSS can has to use an OSS muzzle device, and we will come back to those muzzle devices here in just a bit. Price tag on these, you're looking at about 900 bucks plus, you know, a little over 100 for a muzzle device. So you are looking at a pretty premium tiered price can set up, a little north of $1,000 once all is said and done. Now that we've got spec land done, let's jump into Opinionville here. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do in this. We're gonna give a classic pros and cons list. We're gonna start pros, we're gonna transition to cons. It's a polarizing can for me. Like there's very distinct pros, very distinct cons. So let's hit some pros here. The biggest pro by a long shot is the fact that it is very much more pleasant for the shooter. And what I'm talking about is gas in your face. So for those who have shot suppressors, obviously you're gonna know what I'm talking about, where you shoot a traditional suppressor and you're getting a bunch of gas blowback in your face, and it's not super pleasant. And the severity of that gas is going to depend on the can, but also the way that that gun is tuned. But the nice thing about the OSS is, look, when you shoot this, you are getting almost no gas in your face. I mean, a tiny bit, but really not enough that you're going to wince at it. The benefit of that is really twofold, I would say. One, healthier. Okay, I think we could probably all agree having toxic gas come back in your face, not going to be super healthy for you long term. And you will see that with guys who have done significant time behind suppressors, whether they're in special operations groups, or I would even imagine maybe some SWAT guys, things like that. That's not going to be good for you in the long haul. So I do know that some people will switch over from traditional cans to something like an OSS can because it is simply healthier, and it is kind of gets mandated, hey, you got to stop sucking in all this gas. So there's that. Second thing would be, look, it's more pleasant just in terms of you shoot enough suppressed with a traditional suppressor, and look, your eyes might begin to water, and look, that can be a little bit of a problem under stress. So the fact that you're not catching all the gas back in your face is a big pro. I would also, the other two big pros would be, because of the flow-through technology, there's going to be a lot less wear and tear on your gun, okay? So there's going to be a lot less parts wear and tear. And again, for those who have not shot suppressed, you will shoot a traditional suppressor. You might even take your mag out and look at your rounds, and you're like, dude, my rounds are covered in carbon, okay? But bulk carrier groups, all that stuff, it's going to need to be cleaned more frequently, and that's just the reality. It's going to gunk up more often. So having a cleaner gun, big pro of an OSS can. The other pro that I would give you is really along those same lines, is you're just going to have, well, I mean, really, they're one and the same, right? It's going to be less wear and tear on your parts, but it's also going to be a cleaner gun. They're kind of, you know, a point number 2/2A there. So cleaner gun, less wear and tear on your parts, which again, if you looked at it with a long-term mindset and you said, well, what if there's an AR banned and like I need to preserve the life of my ARs as long as possible? Something like an OSS starts to make a lot of sense, just because that gun is going to hold up better over time, especially if you're running that gun as a full-time suppressed gun. Now, if we flip that coin and we look at some of the cons, well, there are some cons. Now, some of this is gonna, may or may not be fair, but I'm gonna sort of pre-warn you with that. So my perception is that the can is not as quiet. And maybe I'm wrong on that, because when I look at the decibel levels, like, I did not go across all the suppressor companies and track decibel levels because, hey, you know, I do have other things to do in my day as well. But I will definitely tell you it's probably not going to be the most quiet can, and I wouldn't even be surprised if OSS themselves would acknowledge that, hey, look, the trade-off is you get a lot of good benefits, but the con to that is the can's not going to be as quiet. Now, how big of a deal is that? I don't know. This is one of those hard to say. And by the way, if you guys see something that looks like a coyote dart through the background, something is living over there, and I think he's starting to get on the trail of it. But look, the can's not going to be as quiet. Does it matter? I don't actually know that it matters, because as stated previously, look, you're probably going to be wearing ear protection as you're shooting a suppressed rifle anyway. So what's the difference if it's a few decibels louder? Is it as quiet? No. Does it matter? I don't know. It might not be a big deal to you that it's not as quiet, but at the very least, it would be a consideration. Let's see. It's not going to be as robust. Have I done all the testing to validate that opinion? No, but just based on materials used, which would be stainless steel and titanium versus something like stellite on a dead air can, or some of the real kind of Gucci unobtainium type materials that you can get on suppressors. Something like this is probably going to have a little bit less of a service life. Again, do you care if, don't quote me on this, but hypothetically, let's say a Surefire can go to 100,000 rounds and an OSS could go to 60,000. Again, don't quote me, hypothetical, but say that were the case. Do you care? Are you going to put 60,000 rounds through it? Okay, so again, a little bit of a con, but I don't know that it's a con that's really going to matter to you. Another one, the mounting solution. Okay, this might be my biggest con. Carbon locks onto the muzzle device very, very quickly. Okay, now for the purposes of this, we're actually going to test out a theory. So we're going to run a little bit of a science experiment. Full disclosure, run 150 rounds through this today. And if you're like, that's very low, one, I've got a lot of other rounds on this setup. Two, yeah, it's like fucking $700 for a case of 223, right? So that's why. But let's just see. So there's about 150 rounds through this. Let's see, just so everyone doesn't lose their mind here. Cool, everyone happy? Bolts locked back. Let's see here. So on most cans, now dead air or OSS cans go in reverse, right? So if I'm twisting this way and you're like, idiot, that tightens it. It's actually the reverse on an OSS can, which is what helps it not back out. Okay. So, you know, I mean, you guys get the point. Like, this is 150 rounds. Now, mind you, I've heard you got to do it when it's still warm. And then I've heard direct from people very knowledgeable on the subject, no, you have to wait until these cool down completely and then it'll come right off. Look, it just doesn't, okay? And that is a con for me. The biggest problem of that I have is, look, this gun is largely designed as a bag gun for me. It's an 11.5. Jake's an idiot. So this gun was largely designed to be a bag gun, right? That's why I have the side folder on it. This will actually fit into a Vertex bag. Now, if that video has not come out, it will be coming out soon. But, yo, it's a problem if I go shoot my gun at a range day and the damn can, the can ain't coming off. Like, so I've had this happen on the other range days, and the only way that we've gotten this thing off is basically I hold this fucker down, not like this, like a child, but like I hold this thing down and someone else has to two-hand twist that thing, right, and put some man strength behind it. So like the can carbon locking, that is a problem for me. It's annoying because, well, shit, now if I want to get this, hell, this thing won't even go in the rifle bag so now I got to throw this thing in the back seat taking it home. So it's a little bit annoying. I don't love that fact. So the mounting solution by foot leaves a bit to be desired. The muzzle devices themselves, I think probably not the best. I think the mainstream public would probably be on board with that. I think there's some better muzzle devices. Are they bad? No, they're not bad. They're just not my favorite. And really the mounting solution, I'm not a giant fan of. Let's see here. Other cons. It is a little bit of a niche point, but I do think it's valid. So as opposed to something like my dead air can, where the front cap can actually be unscrewed. That way, if you wanted to put on, in this case, a real flash hider front cap, you can do that. Or if you're swapping to a 30 cal, you can swap all this out, okay? The other benefit is that, hey, if you ever struck that front cap or you had a baffle strike or something like that, but particularly if you struck that front cap, your can's still okay because that is not welded onto the can. The OSS, a little bit of a different story. The OSS, this is integral, unless I am a total bonehead, but I mean, looking at this, it's pretty obvious. That front flash cap is integral to the can. It's welded on, it's not going anywhere. So, hey, look, if you were to strike, I don't know if on an OSS can, if the term baffle strike would be appropriate, given that the can is different than a traditional can, but you guys get the idea. If you were to have a strike or strike your front cap, I think your can's pretty much toast. That's the reality. I think that suppressor is pretty much toast at that point. Does that happen? I'm sure it does. Does it happen often? Probably not, but you guys get the point. If you were to have some sort of unfortunate incident on the suppressor, that suppressor is probably done. Warranty would likely cover a new one, I would assume, but please don't quote me on that. So if we look at final thoughts on the OSS, like I said, I have very distinct pros and very distinct cons. There's a part of me that thinks, man, the trade-offs are worth, they're worth it. And I think that's what you have to, this is like, everything has a trade-off. If there's a pro, there's a con to it. So no blowback in your face, I'm not sucking in gas, it's healthier, it's more pleasant to shoot, carbon locks onto the gun. For me, I mean, look, they list their weights. It sounds like they're the same thing, but my perception of it is that it feels like a heavy can to me. Again, is that a fair statement? No, they're listed at the same weight, but I'm just telling you the end user perception on my part is that it feels a bit heavy. But, you know, even though I'm throwing a little bit of jabs at it there, I think they're fair things that other people would say. And overall, I like it. I would say, hey, look, it is worth your money. You have to know some of these things going in about muzzle devices and carbon locking on, and it's not going to be as quiet. But if you go, hey, that is worth it for me to have a gun that takes less wear and tear, less gas in my face, would I recommend it? Yeah, but I think you have to go in knowing pros and cons of it. And it's one of those very much like, it's not a clear cut yes, no, it's a take the information you were given, you make your call. I feel kind of indecisive in this one, but you guys, I think you get where I'm coming from on it. So I don't fucking know. Do your thing. Do your thing, America. I do appreciate you watching. And I don't know. I'm supposed to say leave a comment below with like your favorite suppressor. I don't know. You comment, like, do whatever you want. So, all right, I'm done. This is by the way, everyone, I acknowledge this is a C performance on my part today. So just know I acknowledge that. The creator is telling you I give my performance on this video a C today. So cool. See ya.